Hi, my name is Vaiko Hansson. I am a leadership mentor, a coach, and a public speaker on topics like organizational culture, purpose-driven business, and how we humans evolve and develop in companies. And over the past decade or so, I've facilitated over 100 trainings and workshops for big corporations, startups, and conferences. And I am here to talk about how we people work together. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that if you didn't have to go on so many meetings, you would get so much more work done? So in this video, I will tell you about 3 things that when applied to your meetings will radically increase the productivity and engagement of your sessions. You would actually get some real work done instead of just prepping and syncing and doing all sorts of things. In my work, I am super passionate about collaboration, co-working, and I really like the African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone; if you want to go far, go together. And I believe that co-work and cooperation is one of the greatest powers of humankind. If two great minds come together, then or more, then really awesome stuff can start happening. But this cooperation is also one of the hardest. There are emotions, our egos, our different perspectives that come into play. And with that, there is a problem in our workspaces. We really don't know how to co-work that well. So why do we think that if we didn't attend so many meetings that we would get so much more real work done? All these preparation and planning and sync meetings, while they're all very useful and necessary, they are still what they are. They're administrative. We prepare, we sync, but the actual real content usually gets created when people go back to their desks to work on this stuff. In addition, it is really hard to facilitate those kind of sessions. I mean, topics tend to go every which way. People start talking, they go into passionate topics, and suddenly you realize, oh, was that what we were talking about? And then there are people who like to talk. They, when given a chance, they just talk, and others, quieter people, just don't get the word. And then suddenly you realize that the session is over, and did we even get anywhere into some results? Very often, no. And because of that, a lot of people's time and energy gets wasted during these sessions. Let me give you a story. I once attended a meeting. There were 50 people attending, and it was the whole day event, and people just came and they presented where they were, and it was so disengaging that most of the people didn't do anything during that day. It was so boring for me that I actually literally fell asleep, and my friend who was sitting next to me had to download an app, a snoring app, and he played the snoring sound into my ear, and I woke to the sound of that. And I think this is the most frustrated I have been because of the time wasted. Like, this day was it was horrible. And there are other meetings, a lot of meetings that are not so bad, but still sometimes when I go off the meeting, I just feel that, was that really necessary, or was that energy that we invested here truly the best use of this time and energy? And if we think about wasting people's time, it always translates into money for our companies. I mean, people who attend these meetings are usually top-level professionals whose time is very valuable and expensive, and we just waste it instead of just harnessing this power and making the best use of it. I found a couple of years ago there was a study conducted by a company called Doodle. What they found was that over 70% of people actually feel that meetings waste their time. It is unbelievable, like 70%. And what they also found, they were able to translate this into money, and they realized that in US only, companies in total lose over $400 billion to these ineffective and useless meetings. And this is just insane. Imagine what we could do with time, with energy, and with money that gets lost every year due to these inefficient co-working sessions that we call meetings. And there is even a greater loss if we think about all the potential ideas, all the potential innovation and genius that just doesn't happen when people come to the sessions bored, not engaged, and just drifting away somewhere, then actually the loss even can be bigger. But luckily there is a solution. Over my years of working as a leadership mentor and coach, I have discovered a method that can turn these meetings into actual co-working sessions called workshops. So what's a workshop? So instead of coming together to prep or sync or just like touch base, people come together and do actual real work. You know, the work that we usually get done when we go back from the meeting to our desks. But on workshops, people come together and do this work together, harnessing the power of co-work and collaboration. And today, in this video, I'm going to share 3 things that can turn your meetings into these workshops, these collaboration events. But before I do so, let me give you an example what I actually mean by a workshop versus a meeting. So once I was invited to an international conference organized by World Cleanup Day. It was a world cleaning conference, and they had gathered a lot of data about where the trash was on Earth. And they wanted to generate different ideas and concepts how to best utilize this information, this knowledge towards the cleaner Earth. So they invited me to conduct this co-working session where people would come together and brainstorm and discuss about different ideas, different concepts, what could be done with this information. The problem was that they wanted to bring together 50 people into one session, and they only gave me 1 hour for each session. There were 2 sessions planned. So this was crazy because first of all, 50 people in one room having a meeting or like a session together already sounds very fishy. But if I started thinking about this conference, and the participants, then mostly these people would be super enthusiastic, these earth cleaning crazy people in a good way. You know the type, like they have millions of ideas, they always want to express these ideas, they want to move, do things. And it very much sounded like it would be really crazy talk fest where everybody would be talking and nobody knows where we're going with this. So it was pretty scary, but I still accepted this, and I took out my framework that I use every time I host different kinds of workshops. And I used these methods and especially these 3 principles that I'm going to share very soon with you, and designed a plan for this 1 hour. And I was still very scared because 50 people, enthusiastic people, 1 hour, it was just so crazy. But I went to the session, I followed the plan, we did everything that I planned for them, and it worked. It was like, it actually worked. So everyone were engaged in passionate conversations. Nobody was drifting away anywhere, and nobody was just bored during this session. We never lost focus or drifted away into other topics. We were always on point what we were doing and where we want to end up, and all the conversations and all the activities that were running were focused towards that goal. And by the end of the session, we got so many great ideas and concepts that the conference organizer actually wanted. This was the goal. And we got all this done within this hour. I even got to set them loose a couple of minutes earlier, so it worked really, really well. So how did I do that? How did this session differ so much from the experience that I told you about earlier, where I was sleeping, and there was a snoring gap. So to me, there were three main differences, three main elements that I used to plan and to facilitate this session. And if applied to your meetings or co-working sessions, these will dramatically increase the engagement and the productivity and output of these sessions. And this is universal, be it like 3 people or 30 people, it always works. So here are these 3 things. So the first difference was there was a facilitator. If I could give you one piece of advice that would dramatically change the experience of your meetings and co-working sessions, it would be a facilitator. And what I mean by that, there was one person, in this case me, who was responsible of the way it was conducted, the session. The person who takes the responsibility of preparing, like really preparing, thinking through who are the people coming, what are we after, and how are we going to get to this place. And this same person is the one who is going to take the responsibility during the session, keeping to this focus and keeping to this plan, so that people who get drifted away into temperament and engaging and really passionate topics, they could very easily forget where we are, forget the sense of time, forget the actual goal that we're after. So there would be one person who is constantly monitoring and guiding people through this process that he or she planned previously. And this is super important. This will dramatically change the quality of how your sessions will run if you change that one thing. So the second difference is, to me, equally important, and this is the purpose of the session. Why are we gathered together and why are we working together? So I took deliberate time before the session to really think this through. What is the reason that we are having these sessions, and what are the things that we want to end up with when the session is over? So I took time and wrote these down in a very clear way that everybody will understand. And then I took time in the beginning of the session to articulate this very, very clearly. And after that, I took time to make sure that everybody understands it the same way. So we had a Q&A session. I gave them examples, and I put these goals and this why on the wall, and it was all over the place, like it was everywhere, why we are here. So later, when the session started going and people started talking and all these things started rolling out, then it was really easy for me to refer back to the beginning of the session and to refer back to the slide that was on the screen, that this is what we are doing, this is why we are doing this, and this is what we want to end up with. I see it very often that the goal or the potential outcome that people want to reach gets only discussed in the beginning, and it is very easy that way to drift away in some random place with the discussions, and then at the end of the session, oh darn, we didn't do that at all. So one of the main roles of the facilitator is always to keep the group connected to that goal, that purpose of this session, and to make sure that everybody understands it the same way. So if it is 2 things that you are willing to change, then put energy into that, and I guarantee it will also change the quality of your sessions dramatically. So the third difference was a plan. And what do I mean by plan? Usually meetings have agendas, and the agenda is like a bullet list of topics that we need to go through with the session. But by plan, I mean very specific knowledge about what are we going to do in every given moment, and how are we going to reach these outcomes that we set for ourselves. What are the actual activities that need to take place? How long will these activities be? Who are doing what? And if we have this kind of plan, then we as facilitators can actually keep the focus so much better. We can see where we are with the plan. Are we behind, or do we have enough time to complete all this? We can always tell people that now we are doing this, now we are doing that. And also it is very important to have this kind of plan because some topics are more complicated, some topics are less complicated. And if we really think through how are we going to get to the objectives that we have set for ourselves, then these activities and these methods can be so much more effective. For example, maybe at some point people need to think quietly to bring out some cool ideas. Maybe at some point they need to discuss, maybe that there needs to be a decision point specifically in some point in the meeting. Maybe need to discuss the next steps. And all these things need to be planned and need to be time boxed. Otherwise, we will lose the track of time and some things just end up not getting done. So when I went to conduct the session on this conference, this 50 people 1 hour session, then I had a very specific time boxed plan about what are we going to do in any given moment. And that way I was always keeping track and always communicating this plan to the people attending. So this is the third thing, and these are all connected, but these are the three main things that I suggest you take into your meetings and co-working sessions. And if you do that, I guarantee you the productivity and engagement for everybody in this session will rise tremendously. And the good news is I can help you with that. There are actually a lot more things than just these three things that you can do to dramatically level up your co-working sessions and turn them into these great workshops. And I have taken all these elements that I use personally to do these sessions for conferences, for corporations and startups, and I've turned them into a framework that I can just give to you and you can use it yourself. And even more, I have designed a workshop, like a 2-hour workshop, where I will guide you through this process, this framework, and we will together design your next session. So instead of just learning the framework and trying to apply it later, this workshop will take you through step by step through this framework together with me, and I will give you time and will give you examples, and you will end up with a detailed plan for your next session. And since it is pre-recorded, then you can use it anytime you like. You don't have to attend it at a specific time, and you can use it as many times as you like. So if you have it, then you can use it to plan all your next upcoming meetings and sessions and workshops. And you will also get, as a free bonus, a workshop planner canvas. It's a template that you can use while you're planning your meetings, your co-working sessions. It will make it even more easier and even more clear what your sessions will look like. And you can also use it during the session to keep yourself focused. So if this is something that you feel would be useful for you as a facilitator, as a leader, for your teams, for your organization as a whole, then I suggest you scroll down, get some more details, and join this workshop to plan your next meeting into an engaging and productive workshop. I thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.